let's continue. We're holding on Yudalid Amid Aleph. Just for the sake of, even though you can never have overkill in Chazara, but I'm a little bit nervous about overkill in Chazara at this stage of a life. So I'm not going to chazar the whole thing, even though my leave is saying that we should. But I think we're going to start straight from Gufa. Unless the Eilim wants another Chazara. What does the Eilim here want? Go. Weiter. Let's go weiter. I think we're there. I think we did a good Chazara. We're going to wrap it up right now. And then when we start the Mishnah, we're going to start Nacham Stark in Chazara. So we're finishing off up to Gufa. I think we even started reading this last week. It's 6 lines down. This hopefully sounds extremely familiar. Every time a Gufa stam, just to remember, sometimes if we forget the cues within the Gemara, it makes Gemara learning that much more difficult. Gufa just means we're re-quoting what we just quoted. Usually it's to be meisif, to add something on. Here, ironically, there's really nothing added on. I did look around and I saw that he said something like just saying it more with clarity or something, but okay, I have you. That's for you. Okay, good. Gufa. Kol yadais. There's more drinks in the fridge for no one's. Kol yadas eichlin Shabbos' son begairin. This is the Mishnah that we quoted up top. That all handles of foods that were crushed in the threshing floor, which we know already were some sort of bundles of things that Bas's son might mean crushed. We're going to see in a moment. There's 2 pshatim what basa means. So kol yadas eichlin Shabbos begairin tehayrais are tar. V'Rav Yosi mitame. Asks the Gemara, my boss's son. So Rav Yechlan Amar Basan Mamish, it was crushed. Rav Elazar Amar Hitter Agdan, this means you untied it. So this is Mamish, the exact same thing we quoted. We're just now asking the Kasha the other way. Before we quoted this and said Bishlama Rav Yosi, just let's see it inside. Bishlama Rav Elazar Amar Basan's son Hitter Agdan, it means you untie the bundles. Hainu Demitame Rav Yosi. That's what Rav Yosi says. That it is Tameh, because he didn't really do anything to the bundle. What did he do? You just untied it, but it's the same bundle that it was, and that's the reason why Rav Yosi says it's not a new entity, it's the original entity. Well, the kasha is, Al Rav Yechlan Damar Basan Mamish, you Mamish crushed it. Amay Metame Rav Yosi. If you crushed it, it's a completely new entity. Amar Reish Lakish, and we had this exact nikuda prior, because it's roi to flip over with a pitchfork, which doesn't mean there's some usage still left from the wheat stalk. We had this exact Gemara, we just didn't have it straight, and that's the reason why the Gemara quotes it again. Yes. I'm picturing flour. Yeah, correct. Obviously, it's not. Very good. Very good. There's obviously still pieces there from the fact that we're saying it's still raw to flip over the pitchfork means there's still some part of the stalk still there. Yeah, Mashikazah. It means you took this bundle and you smashed it. Broken pieces, correct. So based on that, it's not streaming. No, but you're saying the other way. You're saying the other way. Oh, good, in a charami. And that's where the Gemara last time said that if it's basa mamish, what Michael Amir, the Gemara said that it's called crushed. Is it in its functionality is a shini? That's really the detail that we're discussing. Amar Rav Elazar, we finish off with a positive note. Lama nimshlu tfiloson shel sadikin ke'otar. Why are the tfilos of sadikim like a pitchfork? Loimer lecha to teach you. Ma otar zeh, just like this pitchfork, mahapechas atvua turns over the grain, begairin in the threshing floor, mimakam lamakim. Af tfiloson shel sadikin, mahapechas daitay shel kadosh baruch hu. A fascinating lush of the Gemara, whether we understand it or not, and whether this fits with our understanding of Bechir or not, who really cares? Stated Gemara that what does the tefillah do? It turns over the das of Kadosh Baruch Hu, memidas achzarius, from judgment, lemidas rachmanis, absolutely incredible. Just to add on one detail that we just learned in Sharon B'Tfilah, we're talking now at the end of Sharon B'Tfilah where he talks about davening excessively, and sometimes we wonder, like, is there really a point? Okay, every tefillah is chashish, but like there's a special type of tefillah called davening again and again and again. Anyone who clicked in onto the tefillah, you've heard this, but it's a beautiful idea. What Pincus brings out is that we think, what's the point of davening again? If you didn't have kavanah the first time, you'll have kavanah the second time. He says, no, it's like digging a well. Every shovel full that you dug does what? Gives more room for water. Says Rav Pincus, every tefillah opens up more, that allows us to be filled with more shefa and more ratzon and more everything from Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the Gemara here is teaching us the mechanics, how we can maybe get a favorable response when Hashem already was geyser, already decided you shouldn't get it, because it turns over the das. But that's one word on tefillah.
That's tefillah.
Oh, so the answer is
Everybody could be a tzaddik.
it's a big tzaddik. There's a song. What's your suffix? Later.
Amech kulam tzadik.
Avada. Right, we could call Rav Hutner, right? Rav Hutner said, "Oh, Alan is Sionis of a Bacher walking across Coney Island Avenue. They never cholomed back in Radin, and therefore you get more schar when you learn a piece of Gemara more. When you learn a Rav Akiva Eiger more than Rav Akiva Eiger himself. That's what Rav Hutner said 50 years ago. Now the follow up is, I verstehe Coney Island or Avenue J. This is Sionis. First of all, 50 years ago, what were they doing? Epis, the sleeves were a little bit high. No. But definitely not the nisyonis of Heinti Getag, and definitely not the nisyonis that are not in the streets, but in everyone's pocket 24/7. So it just means that the schar is multiplied by infinity of every shtickle Gemara. So l'chayra, if he said you get more schar than Rav Akiva Eiger, l'chayra we could probably put into the Gemara itself. And therefore our tefillah is about the kolshkin v'kolshkin. And if we sit here and we push ourselves to learn a shtickle Gemara, which is difficult, you're getting more schar than the Gemara itself, than Rebbe, which is reviewed on Nasi, which is absolutely mind-boggling, wild. So let's learn. Zok Tehil Gemishta. Here we go. Chavra, we have 10 minutes. New Gemara, a little bit of easier Gemara. We started the chizik with, which I hope what I said in the chizik was appropriate, because Akiva told me forward it to Ray Wagner, so I don't even remember what I said. But anyways, it didn't get screamed at, so I hope it worked out well. That first day when we spoke about I know I put it up, I put everything up. I don't care. But
the Chassidish guy.
Yeah. By the way, postscript on Chassidish guy.
Yeah.
Stop before we start.
They started the shit.
Thursday night. No, better. Thursday night, Rav David Newman had an event in his house. Moshe Oslander played for him. He had the Chassidish guy speak on the phone for him. So I asked whatever the chaver, like, what's the story with him? Ray Wagner has been learning with him one-on-one every single day, as if he has nothing better to do. The guy said when Akiva pushed him like get a chabura, the guy said, "I never dreamed I would open up a Gemara. I haven't opened a Gemara in 30 years. You want me to convince my friends to open a Gemara?" That's what he said. Yeah. Obviously, they're still working on it, but just to show like a guy that's running the whole world, and he comes every single day, one-on-one. They're learning. Mayerdik. Zogt the Heilige Gemara Mishnah Misachachin binisarin. Sachin binisarin. You're allowed to use chach out of nisarim are boards, planks of wood. David Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir Oyser. The kasha is, why in the world did Oyser? What's a plank of wood? A glorified bamboo. We know there's two conditions for schach. Gedule karka and mekabel toma. So l'chayra, why is the plank any different? Ayin Sham, stay tuned. We'll get there in the Gemara momentarily. Says the Mishnah further. Nasan aleho neser shurochav arba'a tfachim. If you placed on your sukkah, a neser, a beam, a board, is more appropriate, which is wide 4 tfachim, ksheira. But, ubavad shlo yishein tachtav. You can't sleep under that board. Okay, interesting.
This is also according to Rab Meir? No, this is
l'chayra everyone. This is l'chayra everyone.
But wait, a second ago, Rab Meir said that you can't use Nesarim at all.
So let's see. Good. Let's speak out the Mishnah.
Why can't you sleep?
Why can't you sleep on it? Good.
That's another
question. Good. So first, let's just split up the Mishnah into 2 parts. Part A of the Mishnah is a neser kosher. So the l'chayra, the simple answer to your question is, the first part of the Mishnah didn't discuss how wide it is. Just said any neser, according to our mayor, is pasul. The second part of the Mishnah says, now what if you put on a neser which is dalit fachim? That's why it fits with everyone. It's kosher, but you can't sit underneath it. So we have to see what this means. Let's go straight into the Gemara. You can't sleep underneath it. Very good. Which is also interesting. Why sleep?
Why can you eat?
It would sound like very good. You can eat, which is also very, very interesting. Let's get there. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav, says Rav. The machlokes in the Mishnah, machlokes b'nesarim sheyesh bahem dalid derameir isle gezeras tikra. We'll see what this means in a moment. But Rameir says it's aser a gezera derabanan. Tikra means a ceiling, a roof. We'll explain what that is in a minute. Rav Yehuda less like gezeras tikra. Rav Yehuda does not hold up this gezera. Aval binisarim, boards, she'ein bohem dalid, which are not for tfachim, divrei hakol sheira. That's the first way of learning the Mishnah. I know we didn't explain.
Safer.
Whoa, 1 second. Good. We have to get there in a moment. And I also know we didn't really explain what this is, Gezeirah Tikra. But for contrast purposes, tell you my brain purposely.
Because it's so wide.
That's why it's similar. Good. Let's see that in 1 minute.
Think they can go into the house.
See in a minute. Let's see. The contrast is Shmuel. That was Rav. Okay, so for contrast, let's see how Shmuel explains the Mishnah, and then we'll go back and understand both of them. Usually, it's easier to understand everything as it relates to something else, because it gives you somewhere to think about it. Shmuel Amar, says Shmuel, b'she'ein ba dalin machlokes. The Mishnah is when it's not for tfachim. Aval yesh bahen dalid. If it is for tfachim, divrei hakol psula. Everyone is going to hold its puzzle. Says the Gemara, ein bahen arba. If it's not for, va'afilu. Pause. Excuse me. Let's pause there for a moment. Okay. Rav, Shmuel. Rav the machlokes is when it's 4. Shmuel the machlokes is less than 4. We don't know what the machlokes is in Shmuel yet, but we know that Shmuel says back to Rav, if it's 4, everyone holds its puzzle. So now everyone together, let's look at Rashi. Rashi, right from the beginning of the Gemara, machlokes b'nisarim sheish bahen arba. The machlokes is by a board that is 4 tfach. Says Rashi, sheroiv tikrois habayis. The majority of the roofs of houses, asuyais mehen, are made from 4 tefach wide beams. Therefore, Rabbi Meir continues in Rashi, the puzzle that holds its puzzle is why is le gzeras tikra. Holds of this gzera. What's this gzera? Says Rameir, if we would have said that a sukkah with a roof, with schach, that are 4 tfachim wide beams is kosher, what would you do? Asi lememar, you would come to say, which realize this is a gezerah. Every gezerah means it's not intrinsically a problem. Chazal, with their infinite wisdom, impose safeguards so that you don't come to do something else. So if we were allowed to sit under a sukkah of 4 tfachim beams, Asi lememar, you would come to say, Mali lesakech be'elu. What's the difference if I use chach like these? Mali leishev tachas kairis beisi. What's the difference if I sit under the beams of my house? Af hi benisarim mekura. It as well, the house as well, is roofed. Mekura means it's the verb of making a roof. I think it's called roofed in English. It's roofed with beams. Vahu vadai pasal. Why? The sukkah amar rachmana v'loy beisel shall kol yimei shana. That's a Rashi. Now let's explain outside the beautiful words of Rashi. The Gemara said that according to Rav, the machlekes is we have a board that's 4 tfachim. In a board that's 4 tfachim, Rameir says it's puzzle. Why does Rameir say it's puzzle? Not intrinsically. Again, I just want to paint a picture for a moment to understand. You have wooden planks of 4 tfachim that are just, they're not screwed down, they're not plastered down, wooden planks that are lying across the top of your sukkah. You look up, they're wood, they're all the conditions. What's the difference between this and my bamboo slat? Be'etzem, intrinsically, nothing. When you learned the previous Mishnah, when we together learned the conditions of schach, if I were to ask you, I have a board this wide, is it kosher? You would say, what's it made out of? I would say wood. You would say kosher. It's true. Says Rameir, but midrabanon, they imposed a decree that they were worried. Because
When it's four
when it's 4 tefachim, thank you, they made a decree that what? Because the majority of houses in those days look just like that. So imagine you're in your dining room, you look up, what do you see? Blank Sazai. You walk out to your sukkah, what do you see? Blank Sazai. We'll blame it on our wives, okay? So they're the chachamim that thought of this. Your Rebbe says to you the first night, Yankel, what are we sitting outside here freezing? He says, what do you mean? It's sukkahs. She says, ye tippish. Look up. He says, well, it's schach. She says, now look inside. She says, what? It's the same roof. What are we doing out here? Taka. She's correct. And they go inside. And that's possible. Why is that possible? Now, this is the fascinating detail. Why is that possible? Why is it possible?
Sukkah.
Because it's a bias, not a sukkah. Now, that words in Rashi, I'm just going to point out, are massive. Why? Mechatisi. I don't know. If I had kavanah when I built it, maybe it's kosher. I don't know. Let's not get involved in that, because if you think about it, it's a big problem. If your roof was actually schach, why is it possible? If someone lives in, I don't know, Cancun, and their dining room roof is bamboo slats, you're going to tell me it's possible? Of course not.
Assuming it was put up.
Oh, assuming it was put up. That goes back to other Mishnayos. Okay, so Gavaldik. Whereas Rashi makes up almost, Rashi almost makes up over here a drasha. Sukkah Amar Achmanav Lebeisa. Where did Rashi have some? Rashi's made up a drasha. Okay, I don't want to get everyone confused with my personal issues with Rashi. I'll take it up with him later. I'll look up to see what the Rishonim say about this. But that's Akash. Good. Everyone understand Rav? Givaldik.
Now, what's Rabbi Yehuda holding?
Oh, let's get there. Back into the Gemara. Now we can read the whole Gemara again.
Let's talk about Yehuda.
Let's read the whole Gemara again, and hopefully we'll get clarity and we'll go Jav weiter. Amar Rav, Machlekes bin Asarim Shish ben Arba. Tir Ameir Isleg Zeres Tikra. Rav Yehuda, Lasik Zeres Tikra. I'm reading it again. This is counting as Chazar Chavra. So everyone look inside, because I'm going to go job further, because I want to have enough that the Olam can make a proper Chazara tomorrow. Aval, however, bin Isarim She'ein Bahen Arba, Divrei Kol Ksheira. What's the problem? Ushmuel Amar, says Shmuel, no. B'she'ein b'hem arba machlekes. The machlekes in the Mishnah is when it's not for. Aval, however, yishvin avre divrei kol psula. Everyone's in a hold. It is possible. Seemingly, why? Let's just assume for the moment, because of the gzeira, like we saw a moment ago. Period. Says the Gemara. Are we all clear so far? Good. Ein b'hem arba. If it's not for. Va'afilu pachis mishleisha. And it's even less than 3. Hakanim ba'almaninu. It's regular reeds. Why in the world would we have a machlekes in the Mishnah if I have a plank that's a little 1 tefach wide plank, a 2-inch wide plank? Is a shaila in the Mishnah that maybe it's kosher, maybe it's possible? Hakanim ba'alma. And as Rashi so eloquently says, what else is chach? According to this, bamboo is possible. Because what's a bamboo slat? A slat.
It's subjective to the individual. If you would use
Maybe. Whoa, maybe. We don't know that yet. We don't know that yet. We have to see. At the moment, we're trying to understand Shmuel. All Shmuel said, the machlekes when it's not for. Says Gemara. What's not for? Anything. If I were to tell you, Shmuel gets up at base medrash, Chevros, I'll give a machlekes in the Mishnah, something less than 4. You go home and say, what in the world? My bamboo slats are less than 4. So that means, according to our mayor, my bamboo slats are possible. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Papa Nein. No. Hachi Kamer. This is what Shmuel meant to say. Yesh behen arba. If it's 4 tfachim, divrei kol psula. Give out. Pachais mei shloisha. Divrei kol ksheira. My time, kanim ba'almaninu. So again, less than 3 tefachim. Again, I want us to wrap our brains around this. Tefach is about 6 inches. Less than 3 tefachim means less than 18 inches. It's still sizable. It's about so big. Still pretty big.
tree trunks.
Yeah, it's still pretty big. You could have not 2x4s, 4x8s, a chleistish. These big pieces you're using. Everyone knows it's kosher. Says Shmuel. Keep ligi. When's the machlekes? Mishloisha adarba. Mar savar. Even less now you shear makom. Since it doesn't have a sheer makom. If it's less than 4, it doesn't have a shear of a place. A makom in Allah is dalat tfachim. Therefore, says the Tanakama, says Rabbi Yehuda, like as we know, there's no gezerah. Umar savar, and Rameir holds no. Even nafku lahumi teres love, and once it leaves nafak, it goes out. It leaves from teres love, and it's no longer 3 tefachim. Kazurinon, we have a gezerah dira banan. So Rav, Shmuel, and Rav Papa's way of explaining Shmuel. Chaver, let's try very hard tomorrow to at least once. Chazer, I'm also going to post again the Amud Gemara on the chat in case anyone finds it easier to have the Gemara on you. Obviously, use your own Gemara, but let's try to get the reading in because this is a classical Gemara that's going to build and build and build, and it's Givaldic.